This week on the Reel Watchlist Plus, we're starting our sleazy, sexy movies with the 1980 movie Cruising, a serial killer crime sexual exploitation neo-noir film. And the plot is a police officer goes undercover in the underground S&M gay subculture of New York City to catch a serial killer who is preying on the gay men. The film is very much a time capsule of a bygone era in gay life. A year after its release, the first reports of AIDS-related illnesses were reported in New York City.
And no, you're not watching a music video of the Village People, but you are watching the Village People of movie reviewers. And we want to remind all of you to please subscribe, like, and comment. We've done a full year and we really need your love.
Yes, yes, I was going to tell you, let's do our Cinesips because we have something to drink through this whole thing. All right, here we go. Oh, it's icy cold.
Yeah, so the Leather Bar, our signature cocktail for today, a combination of a smoky whiskey, a little bit of chocolate bitters, and sweet vermouth. Add it together in a rocks glass, and you got the Leather Bar.
This one is definitely tongue.
It's a smoky drink.
Oof. Well, all I can say is if you really want to get drunk, drink this thing.
I can feel the heat.
No way. Wow.
Yeah, it's got a little kick.
I have a little bit. Let's see.
So I'm ready, Deb. Let's crank this out. So let's paddle our way into this vote.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Ooh, interesting. Do you know what my artwork is today?
It looks like a fish spine.
No, it's a whip. Because we're going into the leather scene.
I love this movie. I really wasn't in love with Al Pacino as the lead character, even though I do like Al Pacino. But I love the film because, first of all, I can't recommend it to people because I have a lot of friends that want to watch like Virgin River and things like that. They would die if they saw a movie like this.
So open your eyes, people.
No, but they're different. And this isn't for everybody. And since I did live wildly through the 70s, I went to some of these places just for the shock of it all in New York, even though I am completely heterosexual. But I remember this film and it really affected me. And I like the crazy of it. Plus I love serial killers and I love Aberrant.
Well, I do recommend a watch on this for our friends worldwide, because if you want to capture the sense of New York City, 70s, the gay scene, and then the leather gay scene, I thought this was spot on. Didn't quite like Pacino as the major lead role in this, and we'll chat about that. Right. But I definitely think it's a time capsule of the New York scene.
You never can gauge the killer because William Friedkin, who we have to get into as a director because he was so instrumental during this time period in the 70s, he changes and makes the first person that's killed. He makes them the killer later on. And even at the end of the movie, and this isn't a spoiler alert because it's got an ambiguity about it, at the end we see somebody walking into a bar that looks like the killer, who's got a set body type, a set look, a set outfit on. And you say, wow, did they really get the killer? And there's an ambiguity about the lead character, which is Al Pacino as well.
When I looked at this film and I watched it again after many, many years and so like pulled myself back, this is like the theme of it, like dual lives, because you don't know who the killer is.
Right.
You're gay in the 70s, so you're in the closet more than likely. You're into a subcultural leather scene that's not acceptable to the public. So you have characters who are architects, designers, everyday people, everyday men. But at night, they're getting into the scene. And just like that dual life,
right.
So be the murderer, you can't quite pin down who the murderer is or murderers.
Correct.
Which I love about this movie.
William Friedkin is one of my favorite directors.
He was a director that really got into the film. Like, he researched this film. Originally, he didn't even like the story, the book. Right. Cruising, that was made in 1970 by a New York Times crime reporter. He was pitched the story, he didn't like it, and then as time went on, he did The French Connection.
Yeah.
He got to know some of the police from New York, and they actually became consultants and actors in some of his films. Right. And it was because of that connection with law enforcement and talking through the story and finding out that not only were there killings of gays during the 70s, but then taking that storyline and fast forwarding it into the leather scene where there were actual committed crimes,
right,
murders, violence in that leather scene to gays, and sort of mashed the two together. Because originally he didn't want to do this movie.
Well, one thing really interesting, he put an additional 40 minutes of footage in this thing that was really raucous and wild because he knew that the Motion Picture Association would edit it down. It had an X rating. I mean, he was trying to get an R rating for this thing.
Matter of fact, if I'm going to jump in, matter of fact, the head of the board for the ratings review committee actually said, I can't give enough X's to this movie.
I know. But it was just, I know I gave it a 7 because it was grittily filmed, and I just can't give everything. But I do like this film. But as far as the filmmaking end of it, as far as the cinematography and all the other things and the casting, I gave it a 7. But as far as my likability on this, I like it even more than that, but I have to look at it as a critic would.
So this film, as I mentioned, did great at the box office. Considering all the controversy, the budget was approximately $11 million, and the box office grossed about $20 million. And people still talk about it today. So out of controversy came some, not only the bucks, but a good movie.
One scene that freaked me out, and if people watch it, it's kind of hard to get it. I mean, we even had to, our producers had to order a copy of this because it's not shown on TV at all. But there's a scene where they're grilling the guy, and this cop comes in, this giant African-American, and he's got a jock strap on, and he starts beating and going crazy. And that was an actual police officer who did that stuff. Right. I can't believe, but back in the day, you could bash people and interrogate them differently now. I mean, the police have cameras on them and everything is, but I was surprised that was a real person.
Yeah, not only was he a law enforcement officer, but they used to say that they could get away with this stuff because if the perp or the person being interviewed said and reported that this big black guy that was in a jockstrap and a cowboy hat came in and smacked the crap out of me, no one would believe him.
It's true.
So I just want to touch on something. If you're interested in more of this film, there's some great documentaries I came across. Exercising Cruising. It was a 2007 video about the movie and the history of cruising.
Is it on YouTube, Joe?
It is on YouTube. You can find all this on YouTube. And there's another film because of the intrigue over the lost 40 minutes. The 40 minutes that was stripped from this movie.
I'd like to see that.
It's no longer there. So there was a movie made out called Interior Leather Bar, 2013, where James Franco and his cohorts tried to recreate some of those scenes. And it's kind of pornographic. It is pornographic, not kinda. But he tries to attempt to recreate what would have happened in that leather bar, in the little side rooms and the ongoing. So 3 little pics that you could sort of follow up and check out.
Okay. I did say, and I feel you might agree, that Al Pacino might have been the wrong person for this.
Definitely wrong.
But he was such a big star because of everything he had done with The Godfather and all the other movies that he pushed his way through into this. But William Friedkin wanted Richard Gere. And I really think maybe Richard Gere would have been better in this part.
Most definitely.
Pacino seemed afraid through it and very trepidatious, and he actually was like that. He felt very, very uneasy. And the thing that I always remember watching this in the theater at the end, when and I didn't remember it completely accurately, but he's with Karen Allen, his girlfriend, and he's done his undercover, cover work. He looks in the mirror, but in the closet, he's got the hat still. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, does he have undercurrent gay tendencies? They make you think that. At least I felt that from the picture. That ambiguity is what's clever about this film.
But yet in the book, Steve is actually people speculate that he's a closeted gay because he's beating on gays in bars. He's going, so yeah, you're right.
And the guy that they chose that we see as the killer in this mostly, I think he's really cool, and I love the voice they chose, because voices are really important when it comes to a serial killer, even in the Zodiac. The voice is really, really important. And he took it actually from the real killer, who said, "Who's here? I'm here. You're here." And Friedkin made note of that and used that. And that's what people said who did escape whoever did in the future. they heard him say that. So the killer had this mantra that he always said, and Friedkin used that. That's kind of cool. Friedkin wanted Richard Gere, but he ended up getting Al Pacino because Al Pacino got a hold of the script. And Al Pacino had done so many big things. He did The Godfather. He did Serpico, The Godfather Part 2, and Dog Day Afternoon. These were huge, huge box office things. So you didn't say no to Al Pacino back then.
Plus, he was also quoted as saying he wanted to branch out and expand his
he certainly did. But when he got involved in it, he was very
he's scared
uncomfortable. He freaked out a little bit because, of course, he was in these bars with these real people. They weren't actors.
Right.
So he felt very uncomfortable. And Friedkin, like I said, wanted Richard Gere, but Richard Gere hadn't done American Gigolo yet, hadn't done big pictures. Right. Gere had just started, and we're going to get into that because we're going to do another movie.
Friedkin needed a name for that film for it to make any money.
Of course.
If you put some kind of no-name person, it would have never made the light of day.
Correct. That's what got people in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Al Pacino. Actually, it was one of those movies I call the flabbergasted audience. When it was all done, people were sitting there like that. They were like, wow. And all you could do was talk about it when you left.
But there's huge controversy around this film. The LGBT community not only despised it because they felt it was exploitive of the community, but they would, as you mentioned earlier, protests. They would make sound during the outdoor scenes. That's why when I was watching the film, I'm like, this looks like it's being dubbed. Well, it was. Right. The outdoor scenes were so noisy that they had to later go back into the studio to dub those lines in there. They would use reflectors to try to have light hit the actors and the scene so it would script filming. They went to movie theaters that were showing it to try to get them to ban and bar that film from being shown. You know, Friedkin had membership to some of these leather clubs because he went to them, and some of them reneged, actually took away their membership from Friedkin because of the film when it came out. So again, you're talking about an era where gay life is criminalized. The community's like, we don't need more of these films to portray us as killers, as sadomasochists. You know, we are real people, and that's what the community was like pushing on. Nowadays, you're looking at it from a different lens. I don't think it was exploitive, but I could see back then when you're a suppressed community that you don't need a film like this going out. And to the point where the film comes out and there was murders that happened, not only in the States, but in Australia, that they said they attributed it to that film being released.
Wow,
that
copycats, you mean? Like copycat murders?
Well, quasi-copycats. There's some question whether they were true copycats. Like one happened in New York City where the guy took a gun and sprayed a bunch of people with bullets. One of them was in the direction of a leather bar, although it was also a bodega, but they claimed that, you know, I'll get the gays too. And then in Australia, there was an act of violence, actual murder of a gay because they felt that they had the ability to like beat up gays, kill them, and no one would care because back then they really wouldn't care. The police wouldn't, it's a gay man, who cares? They're
It opened it up to the general public because after I saw Cruising, I went to the leather bar just to see what it looked like, and I'm not gay, and I went in there and dragged my girlfriend as a joke, and they probably all thought, like, why are these girls coming in here? So it, like, probably violated the whole space because people were curious.
Right. Plus, Pacino said afterwards, when he saw the film come out, he was, you know, really disappointed in his role, so he ended up donating his entire salary to charities. Like he created a trust, and that trust gave money to charities. So he really didn't earn that. I don't believe it, Pacino. I think he set it up for a tax write-off. But that being said, he did note that in his memoirs. Here's the question, true or false, and you better get this right because you talked about it.
Okay.
William Friedkin was so deep into this research in this particular film that he went to leather bars in just a jockstrap. True or false?
True.
True, and as you said before, he did because not only was he immersive, not only did he get hit on, but he ended up saying, like you said before, he was the ugliest guy at the bar, so no one hit on him.
Yeah. But no one knew who Friedkin looked like, because back then we didn't look at, you know, unless you're really into film, you didn't know what somebody looked like.
He got hit on. I don't care if you're ugly. I've been to some of those leather bars.
Yeah, but
even if you're ugly,
after you hit on a pole.
If you drink some of these, everyone looks beautiful.
Yes. Absolutely.
For the audience, I'm going to ask you, I want you to engage. We talked about Pacino in this film. I don't think he was the right cast for this character.
Yeah.
What Pacino films do you like? What Pacino films, besides The Godfather, because I would go more automatically to The Godfather, name some other Pacino films that you liked, or maybe didn't like. You thought he was bad in it. Comment below. We love your input, and we'll comment. And if you do comment and we comment back, we might just have your comment on the show. So.
So number 1, Tightrope from 1984. New Orleans single dad and cop, Wes Block, goes after a serial rapist killer. But when he gets too close, the hunter suddenly becomes the hunted. And it's a good film starring Clint Eastwood and Genevieve Bujold, who was a big thing back then. Number 2, I just talked about it before, Dressed to Kill. A mysterious blonde woman kills one of the psychiatrist's patients and then goes after a high-priced call girl who witnessed the murder, starring the extra fabulous Michael Caine and Joe's favorite, Angie Dickinson. But she is not naked in the movie. She is, but it's a body double. Number 3, Monster, 2003, based on the life of serial murderer Eileen Wuornos. A Daytona Beach prostitute becomes a serial killer. Charlize Theron went raw enough to portray this woman without makeup, gaining herself a well-deserved Best Actress award in the 2004 Academy Awards. Number 4, Hardcore from 1979. A religious businessman from Michigan has to venture into the world of pornography in California, desperately searching for his runaway teenage daughter. It's a hard-hitting performance by George C. Scott. And number 5, another great film by R.I.P. David Lynch, Blue Velvet from 1986. The discovery of a severed human ear found in a field leads a young man, Kyle MacLachlan, on an investigation related to a beautiful, mysterious nightclub singer and a group of psychopathic criminals led by the crazy Dennis Hopper as Frank Booth, who kidnapped her child. It's David Lynch's famous psychological thriller and standout performance, and that's my watch list.
I really like this movie.
Yes.
I think I would have loved it more if it was Richard Gere and not Al Pacino. I think that would have put it onto the 9/10 scale. But for me, it's a movie of a time that has gone away. New York City life, gay life in the leather scene. You're talking about, poppers, the hanky code, all those things that you probably, won't see again in the leather community. Nowadays,
Quaaludes, never again.
The subculture that existed back then is kind of, I don't say 100% accepted, but there are now gay leather groups, and they're raising money for charity, and they're doing great things around their communities. And now, back then, you couldn't do that kind of stuff. So I love it for what it is. I love the murder mystery. I don't think it was exploitive, so that's why I gave it an 8.
I think it's an essential piece of filmmaking that you have to see. And it has a cult following. And I'll never forget seeing it in the movies. And it's like, what are movies for? To be remembered. There's so many movies now that we see, we can't remember the name. They're just throwaways, AKA this year's Oscars a lot. But this is a legacy classic, and it really is a piece of history about the gay life in New York City, and a time when it was a very dangerous town to be a gay in.
So why'd you give it a 7? I still didn't answer that question.
I gave it a 7 because it's gritty filmmaking. I didn't
7,
like
wait. 7, we did like his Girl Friday. That was like a 7. So you
it was
compare
lower than
Cruising
that.
to his Girl Friday?
I can't change my score because I don't want to be wishy-washy, but it is. I don't like the casting in it. I didn't like Al Pacino in it.
Okay.
And I don't like Karen Allen. She's just, that's his
Really?
girlfriend
Okay.
in it.
All
I'm
right,
not
all
in
right.
love. I thought it was like, she had to be in it because it had to show he was heterosexual and he had a girlfriend. I thought that it was just very basic filmmaking. And I think it was because it was the gritty underworld. And I think in retrospect now, Friedkin meant it to be that way. Mm-hmm. But I still think a 7 because if it was remade today on a level with a great director, I think it would have been maybe a little bit better filmed and more slick.
All right. Well, with that said, let's cruise out of here, Deb. But how are we doing that, Deb? How are we cruising out of here?
Well, Joe, I know we never really know where we're going, but I know we got 3 more sexy movies to do. So we're going in that vein, but we never really know where we're going until we go there.